It is so healing to watch people walk in and deeply care for one another and lift each other up, seeking literally nothing in return. It is the absolute essence for me of radical generosity.
I think what surprised me most about the SheEO community is that it's actually a learning organization. Through workshops and peer circles, I learned how to become a much more effective leader in support of social equity and anti-racism.
It really was so much more than just a one-off competition. This is really a community that helps us to not only, consider how to make the world a better place, but also open our eyes to so much that's out there and really empower ourselves and each of us through SheEO.
Keep doing the walk. A lot of folks talk, y'all are doing the walk. Let's keep doing it and walk together.
The support from this community has really helped to squash my imposter syndrome and realize that what I have to offer is relevant and appreciated and necessary.
Walking this journey alone, it's not easy, as any founder knows. And to have a community that understands that and truly supports that, thank you.
Tanse, everyone. Welcome to the fourth and final session of the SheEO 2021 Summit, mindset.world. We are so glad you're here. Tanse kiwao, Kiana Alexander, Nitsi Katsun, Tapwe, Mio Kisikao. I'm a Métis Esqueo, an unlearner, a leader, an artifact, and a future ancestor. I am a daughter, a sister, a wife, an auntie, a storyteller, an award winner, and a friend. I'm the lead executive for Raven Institute, team lead for Esqueo Air, a SheEO activator, and most importantly, a collective belonging curator for future generations. And today, I have the privilege to be your mindset.world host. Our world moves very fast. And I'm going to invite us to just slow down just for a moment. I'm going to invite us to take a deep breath. I acknowledge today as we gather, each of us rooted in different lands, each of us breathing different air, and each of us in our unique contexts. That in and amongst all of that, we all are in this moment, sharing in this one moment together. This moment in time being very, very different than many moments before. I invite us to take a moment wherever you are to think about the land that's holding you in this moment. Colonization has resulted in many of us having complex relationships with land. Even the idea that we can be separate from it in the first place. Maybe it's the land we were born, maybe the land where we grew up, maybe the land where we rest now. Land we were removed from or had to escape. Land that was stolen. Perhaps you've never even considered or acknowledged the land that holds us, or the land that held your ancestors, or the land that will hold future generations. But each and every one of us can recall a memory of land. Maybe it was a river, the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountain, an ocean, a river, land that spoke to us, that held us, that cared for us, that intrigued us, that saved us, that taught us, that witnessed us. Each of us have a memory of land. Today, I honor the lands where my Métis ancestors walked, the land they cared for and the land that cared for them. And through our session today, I honor the wisdom and the responsibility that the land brings each and every one of us. I come to you today from the land of the Tsawwassen First Nation, where I am an uninvited guest and take my responsibility to walk softly, seriously. I invite you, as you exhale that breath, to think about the land that holds you now, all the wisdom she carries, and the responsibilities each and every one of us has to her. Our relationship with land is the mindset. She is all we have. Thank you for sharing in this moment with me. And welcome to mindset.world. We are just getting started. Our session today is being live captioned by Otter AI. Renee is going to drop the link in the chat, and please click on it if you would like access to captioning. It will also be available during all of our breakout sessions today. The SheEO Summit is being visually recorded live by an incredible artist, Laura Hannick of Swoop Media. Check out the link in the chat if you'd like to watch the live creation of her amazing ways of capturing the wisdom of today. Thank you, Laura. So we would like to kind of get a sense of who's joining us for the first time for Summit. You can share a heart in the chat, a high 10, which I didn't know was a high 10 till recently. If it's your first session, welcome. And if it's the second, third, fourth session, welcome back. Whether it's your first or your fourth, we are so glad you are here. In this session on mindset, we'll learn from each other and through story how to shift our thinking, build resilience, and adapt for our changing world. As we get started today, we want to acknowledge our mindset partner is the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub by Ryerson University's Diversity Institute. The Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, also known as WEC, is a part of the Government of Canada's Women Entrepreneurship Strategy. WEC is developing an advanced digital platform and national network for sharing research, knowledge, and leading practices for advancing women entrepreneurs. WEC's new See It, Be It database is a free online database featuring over 1,000 and growing diverse Canadian women entrepreneurs designed to challenge stereotypes and celebrate the incredible women paving the way. More, we have an incredible lineup of speakers for you today, and I am so looking forward to learning from their wisdom. To see full Summit details and to learn more about all the speakers we're going to hear from, check out the Summit app. The Summit app is a web-based app. You will not find it in the App Store, but simply enter the link into your browser, and in there you will find session details. You can learn more about these incredible folks that are being brought together, and learn and decide which breakout groups you want to join, which will be happening a little bit later on in this session. And maybe most importantly, what SheEO is known for is creating the space for us to connect with one another. So on the app, you have opportunities to connect with each other all across these lands. And there's over 2,000 of you, of us, which is incredible. So check it out. So as each and every one of you know, social media has become a huge part of our world, of our lives, and there's some magic we're going to co-create during this session. So let's share that with the world. Over the next 2 hours, we encourage you to, as SheEO likes to say, live out loud. Share your Summit experience on social, share what you're learning, share what you're inspired by, share what you're curious about. Share whatever you want, and hashtag IWD 2021. And SheEO wants to continue to amplify all of what you're saying and your message and your voice, so make sure to tag them. As always, this kind of work is not possible without folks who believe in it, who believe in what it's doing, but not just believe, but with words, but with actions, with resources, with collaborations, with partnership, with amplification. So we want to take a moment as we start today just to acknowledge the partners that have made this session and Summit possible. We want to acknowledge Government of Canada, RBC, who has many activators and team members joining us today. The Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, who is this track partner for mindset.world. Shopify, the impact partner, Venue, the platform that has us all allowed to connect and be together in this moment wherever we are, and Brandwashed, who made all the amazing videos you've seen already today. So woohoo to our partners. So for those of you who are new to Summit, a quick tour of our event platform, Venue. Make sure your profile is up to date. You can do that in the top right corner. You can add your name, photo, headline, add your LinkedIn so this work can continue to happen. The chat, I can already see each of you becoming good friends in there, thanking the partners, introducing yourself. Let's use it. This is our way for each of us to get our voice and our words into our virtual circle we're creating here today. So if you haven't already, say hello. I had someone, who said to me one time that emojis were their love language. So throw some emojis in there, throw some love in there, and connect with one another. I'm so excited to learn more about each and every one of you. Okay, are we ready for our first segment? I am extremely humbled to introduce Lindsey Segu. Lindsey is a social justice doula, a Black feminist practitioner, a writer, PhD candidate, facilitator of SheEO Racial Justice Working Group, who in her words says, social justice is my civic spiritual practice. Wow. Let me share it with you. Is what she says. Trust me, you want to check out Lindsey's social and newsletter. The team will pop it in the chat. And Lindsey will be joined in conversation by Vicki Saunders, founder of SheEO, to discuss the next steps for racial and social justice. Please join me in welcoming two people who are deeply committed to disrupting our world and its ability to transform in the most abundance of ways. Lindsey and Vicki, welcome.
Hi, Lindsey. So good to have you here.
Hello, Vicki. I'm so happy to be with you.
Tell us who you are and what you do.
I am Lindsey Segu. I'm currently situated in Miami, in the United States, which is the ancestral traditional lands of the Miccosukee Seminole Takesa First Nations. I am a PhD candidate at the UBC, University of British Columbia in Vancouver. I am a social worker. I am a Black feminist thinker, and just someone who's just really curious about the world and who believes people can change and can be transformed, and believes that anti-racism is the only way we as a species are going to survive on this planet. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You call yourself a social justice doula, or last time we talked you did. I know language is changing fast. Don't know if you've changed that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the language has not changed, and I really feel as if how I'm working with people individually as well as organizations, I feel like I'm doulaing people. So I'm holding people through their process of being with themselves and undoing their socialization and learning. And so I accompany people and organizations on their journey. And if you know anything about the birth world, you know that the doula just tends to the energy and just finds out, well, what are the conditions that are needed so things can happen? And so that's what I do. I kind of like listen and sit with people. It's like, what are the conditions? What are the questions? What are the conversations that need to happen so that change can happen and people can be transformed? And so I feel like it's a natural progression going from social worker into thinking about doing social work on a different level. And so this is me dueling people. It sounds hippy dippy. It's rooted in a lot of theory and a lot of magic at the same time. And so I'm really proud of what I'm able to do. And for the most part, people who understand the birth world understand immediately what I mean when I say social justice doula. So it's very interesting what signals it puts out and how it gestures to people differently.
It's interesting because I have not had children, but I have birthed so many ideas, so many initiatives, so many projects. So I completely resonate. So could you talk a bit about your process, where you start? We have an audience full of people from all different walks of life, all ages and stages. And a lot of them are very entrepreneurial and very keen on transforming themselves and systems. So can you give us a bit of a pathway into your work?
Yeah, so thank you. I love how you're reframing, because again, I too do not have children, and it just really thinking about like, but we're as women who are doing innovative things, we are giving birth all the time, and just want to think about the capacious understanding of birth and what that means. So I really appreciate you centering that. And so where I start is that I try to get organizations and people thinking that anti-racism is not an identity, it is a practice. What are you practicing? And so if you want the kind of organization where people feel psychologically safe to come to be creative and to be innovative, then you have to really ask yourself, then what are you practicing? Are you incentivizing a work culture that allows for that? Or are you incentivizing a culture that reproduces the worst parts of business culture that is very much rooted in domination and exploitation? So that's where I start. I literally ask people, what do you want to practice? Do you want to be racist or do you want to be anti-racist? And it's not enough to be against racism. Now it's just like, what do I want to practice? Because we know that if we want something to happen, we have to organize our behavior to achieve that goal. So if the goal of this organization is to be anti-racist, then we have questions to ask ourselves about what are we practicing, what do we value, what languages need to change, what perceptions need to change, all of those kinds of things. And so I start with the self, because I'm a firm believer until it's real and you're practicing it, it's not going to be real within your management and within your executive leadership and all of those kinds of things. So that is where I start. Start with the self and let's work out on the outer circles.
I love it. I wonder a little bit about your process as you're working with organizations. And I wonder if you're bringing communities of people along on the social justice pathway and the racial justice pathway, how much articulation of what's actually happening while it's happening is important when you're, doing this transformation work?
Yes. So as how can I say, anyone at any high achieving, high functioning person knows that it's really hard to let people in on everything that's going on in your brain and all the tools that you're pulling from, because you'll lose people. And so there's a lot of this stuff in a way that I'm holding, but there are things that I'm making really transparent because it's weird, because some people are, when we're thinking about doing anti-racism work, there are people who are firmly in the camp of, we're going to feel our way out of this. And then there are other people who are firmly in like, no, we're going to read all the books and we're going to read our way out of it. And my job is to be like, actually, no, we're going to whole person our way out of this. We're going to be holistic. And so, which means I have to bring the intellect, and I have to bring my body, and I have to think about, how are people thinking? How are people feeling? So I have to bring the soft, gushy stuff, because I have to talk to those people, and I have to think about the pragmatic dollars and cents, people who are not bringing that kind of stuff. So in that regard, it's like it's really hard to let people know that actually I'm doing a lot, I'm holding a lot, I'm throwing Black feminism at you, I'm throwing Native feminisms at you, I'm throwing women of color feminism at you, and I'm just throwing I'm deeply rooted in my own spirituality, my own embodiment, and I'm bringing that into it. And so it's hard, especially for people who don't have a practice of thinking about themselves in that very specific way. It could be overwhelming. So I try not to overwhelm, because already the subject matter and the work I'm leading them through feels scary, is scary, and is already overwhelming. And so this is where the beauty of, I'm the facilitator, I'm the one holding it. You don't need to be bogged down with all that extra stuff. Let me doula you, because the doula is really the only person that needs to know all the things that need to happen when they need to happen. You just need to be in as present as possible to do the work that you need to do within yourself.
I wonder about psychological safety and creating the conditions for that, and if you have some learning that you can share around this.
So we have to ask ourselves, when it comes to psychological safety, do you want to be innovative? Do you want to be creative? Because the only way to get the most creative answers and the most innovative answers is to create psychological safety. And when I say psychological safety, like, I literally mean that. There are organizations where people no longer feel as if they can bring good ideas, they can bring themselves into a room, because if the idea does not, if it's too bold, if it's too whatever, there's this intention, there's this thinking like, oh, I'm too woo-woo, or here I am being too feminine in my thinking, this, that, and a third. Like, there's so many gender-based, race-based kinds of things that go on into in the room. And so when I think about psychological safety, literally, it's just like, can this room be with difference? Can this room be with creativity? And can this room handle creativity from bodies that it's not accustomed to listening to and being led by? And that is a very hard question to ask people, because then you're getting into that murkiness of like, then now people have to be honest about, well, what do I think about certain bodies? And do I think certain bodies have good ideas? And do I think I should be led by those bodies and those ideas? And so this is where the psychological safety comes in, because and psychological safety is kind of a thing. It sounds like really weird and abstract, but you know when you're in a room where we want to innovate, and then you know when we're in a room where we're going to do the status quo thing, even if it bankrupts us. You know when you're in that space. And so my job is like, and literally, and what my learnings has shown me is like, a place that is rigid around gender, around sex, around the roles and whatever, is also a place that is rigid around creativity. So literally, like an organization that is operating in sexism and homophobia and racism is literally an organization that's experiencing atrophy. And so anti-racism is not just some like, oh, let's make sure there are enough Black people, Indigenous people, this, that, and a third. Yeah, it has that vibe, it has that effect as well. But a major byproduct that people never think about is psychological safety. If I feel I can bring my entire Black self within this professional realm as I deem safe and okay for me, I also get to bring all of these ideas. And what does it look like when you start to get ideas from people who did not go to the same schools as you do, who didn't vacation where you vacation? You bring this richness. And again, you know, I hate to be all dollars and cents about it, but studies literally show companies that have diverse boards and diverse leaders, the bottom line is better. They are more profitable. Why? Because they're innovative. And if you're innovative in one area, you're going to be innovative in other areas in the organization. And I just can't. This is a really big thing for me. Like, psychological safety is going to be the thing that's going to undo a lot of organizations within this decade if they don't get with it. Because strategic planning can no longer just be about dollars and cents. We're going to do this. What's our marketing brand? What's our strategy? If you're not thinking about how anti-racism is part of your strategic planning, if you're not thinking about how psychological safety can also be part of your strategic planning, you're just not going to be the right fit for this world that we're in, that's moving rapidly, where consciousness is being shaped and elevated at rapid speeds. So as you can see, I'm really passionate about this.
I love it. Yeah, no, I completely love it. I wonder if you are sort of looking at organizations today, are there practices that you're noticing across the different clients and groups that you're working with? Is everything so completely different and it's impossible to boil the ocean on this? Or are there some things that you just think organizations that do this well, that are going to survive in the future, do these 3 things or these 4 things?
Yes, conflict. So if the majority of the people at an organization are people who are culturally conflict averse, like, I'm so sorry, but like, wow, you're in so much trouble. It's not even funny. It's not even funny because, um, because wherever there are people, there's conflict. So whenever people meet, there is a very, very high likelihood conflict will rear its head. However, those of us who have learned or unlearned rather, if you've done the hard work of learning, like actually conflict can be generative, what does that look like when you when you come together with other people? Because here's the thing, it's great to have differences. However, if you are not accustomed to playing well in the sandbox with different kinds of people, then that conflict gets even more exacerbated. So this is where I ask people all the time. I need you to be clear and check yourself personally, because here's the thing. If you are conflict averse in your personal life, you are conflict averse at work. Like, Superwoman is not going to come out at work if you are passive aggressive and constantly avoiding whatever with your kids, with your partner, or whomever. So that's number one. Another thing I am noticing, especially among organizations that have a large swath of millennials. Millennials have a different expectation of work. What does that mean? They want more out of work. And so what happens is, if you find yourself, you're a boss, you're executive director who is Gen Xer or a boomer, you get bristled a lot by millennials, because millennials have super high expectations of work, expectations that I think are not fair. So just being clear about that, because now millennials have lived with now 2 recessions. We've seen so many things in a short period of time, and the majority of us are not even 40. So with that, there's a lot of like, this job has to be my everything, right? Because I have 6 figures worth of student loan debt. So this career it's got to be it. And so that's a lot of pressure to put on an organization. So what I see too is this like, I'm asking more and more millennial teams to think about, is your expectation for work realistic? So this is where people should be encouraging their workers to have work-life balance, and to have another place outside of work where they funnel their liberatory, creative, big dreams that cannot, for obvious reasons, live at work. Now that becomes very hard when all we do is work. And so when all you do is work and you don't have good boundaries and you're not feeding other parts of yourself, work now becomes everything, and then you're easily disappointed by work, and that causes a lot of social dynamic problems at work, because everyone's burnt out, no one has another alternative, so we're all mad, and we're all mad at the wrong things, but projecting it at this thing since we're all here. That's number 2. And another thing, yeah, we live in an age where people expect to bring more feelings into the workplace. And for a lot of people, culturally, that's hard. That is hard. And so how do we become the kind of people, especially here we are a year into a global pandemic, your worker, who you're mentoring, who you're supervising, all of those things, we're all not experiencing this global pandemic in the same way. And what does it look like for organizations and for leaders, when we're thinking about anti-racist feminist leaders, to make space for their workers to bring their full self to work, and knowing that here's this person having to probably care for an aging parent, a dog, a child, and they still have to work. And when it's time for the staff meeting and it's time to check in, are they allowed to say, you know what? Today is a really hard day. I don't need anyone at work per se to fix it. I just need a place to say that I'm not operating at 10. My kid's computer keeps crashing at school. I have a sick parent. Things are not going so well. I'm frazzled. Am I able to say that in my check-in, and then we can move on? And so that my humanity is seen, because I'm stuck in the house all day with these kids and I need to speak to adults, but I feel like it's not appropriate for me to say that, hey, I'm feeling some things. And so those are one of the the top 3 things right now, I'm asking people, like, are you really checking in on your people? Really checking in on them? And just letting people know that it's not lip service, because we all survived 2020. We saw the racial reckoning, this, that, and a third. We're still living through a global pandemic. Here in the United States, we just crossed 500,000 people dead. That's a lot of grief that's in the air. Let us not ignore that there is grief in the air.
Thank you. Conflict, bringing it all to work. And this deeper empathy. I mean, this is what we continue to see over and over, this need for leaders and teams to really take care of one another. Thank you so much for all that you do. How can we find you? Because we want to send lots of people your way for the amazing work that you're doing.
Yes, lutsisagu.com. That is my website. I have a newsletter that I put out every month, lots of resources. I draw back the curtains on how I'm thinking about the world. You can find me on Instagram, Social Justice Jula. Facebook offers a way to follow people without not being their friends on Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook, Lutsi Sagu, or you can find me on Twitter, Feminist Griot. So I'm on all the things. I don't know why, but I'm very accessible. You can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lutsi. Love having talks with you. See you again soon.
Wow. I felt Lutsi's words so deeply. And I can say I'm very grateful that she has made us so accessible. What is really sitting with me that I know is resonating in the chat too is when the words were spoken of, can this room be with difference? Can this room handle creativity from bodies that is not accustomed to listening to or being led by? That's a huge reflection that I'm taking away from this conversation. And the second part that I think is such an important reminder in this work is when the words were said, let us not ignore that grief is in the air. How is that a part of the work that we're doing? How is that a part of what we're creating, what we're building, what we're designing, what we're lifting, what we're amplifying? These are some deeply resonant words. Thank you so much, Lutsi and Vicky, for starting this important dialogue. Each and every one of you here today also have so much deep wisdom and lived experiences to share. So let's share in community, as you've been doing this whole time, share in the chat reflections of how that was for everyone. An emoji if you want to. I'm seeing a lot in there already. A reminder, while we're listening, while we're connecting, while we're learning, while we're unlearning, we want to amplify this wisdom and share it with the world. If you feel inspired, share on socials so we can continue this work. A reminder, if you are sharing on social, to use the hashtag IWD2021 and tag SheEO so SheEO can continue to amplify you, so we can continue to amplify these stories, disruptors, including each and every one of you here today. So I cannot believe it, but we have even more delicious wisdom for you in store today. Next up, we have a very special keynote by Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey. I know folks are excited about this, about every single person speaking. So humbled to even say the names of each and every one of you. Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey is the first Polynesian explorer and first female fellow in the history of National Geographic Society. I'm so curious to learn more, aren't you? Welcome, Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey.
As Kiana said, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey. I'm a National Geographic explorer and cultural anthropologist, humanitarian, and I am committed to women's efforts. The poet Rumi has said, "Your heart knows the way. Run in that direction. Run in that direction." During these really tumultuous times, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and anxious and even lost. And as a wayfinder, I sometimes feel lost. But what history has shown us is that even during the darkest times, great light follows. It's like a caterpillar going into a metamorphosis and becoming a butterfly. We are in that moment, and we can define this as our own metamorphosis, as our own transformation, as the defining moment of our lives, and this becomes the power of our lives. As I travel throughout the world, I have learned many valuable lessons, but the most important lesson that I have ever learned, I want to share with you. And I will teach you steps on how to apply this. And if you do, it can be a game changer. But first, let me tell you a story. There was a young girl born to parents of slaves in 1857. As you can imagine, life was very hard for her. And as she grew up, she was not defined. She refused to be defined, in fact, by circumstance. What she saw was that there was a need in her community. And so she filled that need by creating a small and humble line of hair products for African American women. And she believed in this dream, and she believed in herself. And she told a mighty story about who she could be in the world. And in time, Madam C.J. Walker became the first female self-made millionaire in the United States. Not only an African American female, she became the first female self-made millionaire in the US. But more importantly than the money, she created resources and became a powerful philanthropist, helping the lives of many. I believe that there is a part of C.J. Walker in all of us. What my bio never shows is that I was born in a plantation hospital. I was born without a lot. My parents were teachers. They worked very hard, but we didn't have any social or economic advantage. We lived on the far side of the island of Oahu, on the opposite side of Honolulu. And as a little girl, I would go into the big city thinking it was more than I could imagine. This little town could hardly have dreamed that someday, myself included, could hardly have dreamed that someday I would become a National Geographic explorer, that I would travel the world again and again and again, that my mission would become to elevate the voices and visions of people, particularly women and children, because I know that when their visions are emboldened and when their voices are empowered, it will transform the world. And I want to support your visions and your voices by doing the same thing. So let me tell you about this important lesson that I have applied from these cultures of wayfinders. My mentor was a wayfinder that could sail on a canoe thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean without the use of maps or instruments. And yet he could find his way to these small little islands. On the surface, it looked like, to an untrained eye, that he was sailing toward an island, but in his mind, the vision of the island was so strong that what he was actually doing was harnessing this power of his mind and calling the island to him. Quantum physicists are only now discovering what these ancient cultures have always known, that only 0.1, we are all made up of atoms, we know that, but only 0.1% of that is matter. 99.9% of that is what scientists call empty space. Now, what does that mean to us? And why does this matter? Because our thoughts influence and direct the way our destinies will unfold. We are creating from moment to moment the course of our lives. This empty space is not just empty space, but pure potentiality. And what that means for you is like the wayfinders, the navigators, the sea nomads, the Qigong masters that I have lived among, who all use the same principles, is you can create the life of your visions if your visions are clear and unstoppable. You are capable of this. What these elders will always say is that they have no special gifts that you do not have. They don't have any capabilities greater than what you do. There's a level playing ground here. All you have to do is apply this practice consistently. And it's very simple. So let me share it with you now. It only takes 3 to 5 seconds, and everybody has 3 to 5 seconds. So I want you to close your eyes. Plant your feet firmly on the ground. And as you inhale and exhale, let go of all of your ideas, your thoughts, your plans, your identity of who you are, your biases, your prejudices, your preferences. Let them all go. Drop everything you know yourself to be and set yourself free. Now you can open your eyes. It can be that simple, that done consistently throughout the day. Just take a few seconds throughout your day as frequently as you remember. And what you are doing is resetting your field. What you are doing, these elders say, is strengthening the muscle that will access your deepest knowing, because it is from this internal compass that will never lead you astray. It will always be the most accurate. We live in a society where we're constantly looking outside ourselves for answers, when in fact the answers that we seek are already within us. Everything we want to know is there, but we need to hone this muscle. And I assure you that from this state, you will grow in your clarity and your confidence, and you will stand in the world with authority in the presence and center of who you are. And who you are is exactly what the world needs right now. They are starving for models of inspiration. And you will know that you're on track because every fiber of your being comes fully alive. It's like Howard Thurman said, don't ask the world what it needs. Ask what brings you fully alive and do that, because what the world needs is for more people to be fully alive. And this is how we practice radical generosity, because as we transform our lives in this way, as we rise to the occasion that the world needs, we transform the world. And so in closing, I want you to know that the more that we are living during a period of a pandemic and financial insecurity, and while some people may choose to retreat and hide out and hunker down, I would encourage you instead to rise up and be bold and brave, and we will be bold and brave together. Because as we do, we invite more people to play bigger than they feel that they are. We live in a world where the elders and the wayfinders said, when they are sailing through intensely difficult conditions of storms, they say, do not pray for fair weather, because fair weather will not make you a master. You pray for courage and you be brave, because that is what the crew needs. Well, this world is our canoe, and we're all in this together. Collaboration strengthens us, competition weakens us. I want you to know that I am here for you in every way. My social media contacts will be posted for you. I want you to DM me on my Instagram so that I can know how I can support your journey, how I can be there for you. I want to hear about your journey and what makes you strong and what makes you brave, and want to hear about how you've applied this. Remember, Rumi said, and I believe. Your heart knows the way. So now run in that direction. Thank you.
Welcome back. And thank you to Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey for sharing those words. Thank you for the reminder that even in the darkest of times, that great light follows, and a gracious reminder to call on our courage as we collectively rise. Thank you so much, Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey. Show some love, some reflections. What was that like for you? What did you take away? What are you sitting with? And throw it in the chat in whatever way you'd like, including emojis. Throw some hearts in there. I see some purple hearts, some blue hearts, and some love happening there. Lots of gratitude and a little bit of tears even. So from social justice doula Lutzi Segu to National Geographic Wayfinder Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey, we are reminded and invited to reflect on the power of acknowledging our collective grief, the power of being with difference by bodies and people we are not used to listening to or being led by. How a reminder of our courage can take just 3 to 5 seconds, and how when we are brave enough to rise, others will rise alongside us. Now, we're going to move into some breakout sessions. We're going to have some opportunities to keep this learning, keep being in community with one another, and learning from other incredible folks. So this is a great time to open up your Summit app to see details and decide which breakout group you want to join. The breakout groups will be happening here on Venue, so sit tight, stay here. You don't need to go anywhere. We have you taken care of. The only thing you do need to do is check which breakout group you would like to be a part of. So for the first breakout group, we have 3 options to choose from. We have See It, Be It, Challenging Stereotypes and Breaking Barriers with Wendy, Nita, and Kyla. We have Building Your Curiosity with Chenny, and How to Ask for More with Generosity with Dia. So as a reminder, all sessions will be recorded, so you can watch the recordings for those who may be moving around. So with that, is everyone ready? So in a moment, you'll see the breakout group session options appear on your screen. You will click to join the group you would like to be a part of, and then we will see you back here all together for more goodness.
You're amazing. Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Sounds lovely. So I'm going to drop a link for you in chat to come meet me in the next session, okay?
Okay.
If you can just hop over to this studio, I will meet you there.
Okay, am I closing this one out?